Okay, yes. So one of the stories that you were wanting to tell me was
About the race riots.
in Tulsa
Mm-hmm.
during the 20s, I believe,
Yes.
which was one of the premier riots in the country at that time, and pretty much one of the most dangerous ever that we could ever think of in American history, at least recent history. The Tinkers, I think, lived in Skytook, Oklahoma. They had a lot of land, cattle along the river.
Frank Tinker.
Yeah, Frank Tinker. And another cousin on down the...
Yeah.
And another cousin, different name, down the river.
Yes, sir.
So they controlled the river ways from Tulsa to Osage County. During the race riots, the individuals that were starting the riots or that were pursuing the people outside of their lands or their township areas in the city, they were being run up north, and they had a lot of them had to stay on the banks of the Tinker land. About 3,000 refugees. Is
The
that
blacks,
correct?
right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3,000 refugees, correct? At that time, I think that was what they did. This is all coming from a man in Sperry who is in no relation to the Tinkers, but is what they call historical Sperry, meaning one of the original settlers and prominent settler families of that area that knew what they were doing on the other side of the creek river, on the Tinker side. So they knew what was going on. They related the story. That's how I was able to obtain it. I'll have to get back with you on their names, exact names, but
This was in the 20s?
I believe so. Whenever the race riots in Tulsa occurred.
Okay, yeah.
So anyway, afterwards and during, refugees were coming and staying on their land. One, pecans, cattle, fish, fires, tent areas, and any vegetables that they would have had in their farms. So they would have been supplying all those needs immediately.
Our family was
That's
doing
correct.
that.
The Tinker family would have been one of the families.
Yeah.
One of the large impact families in that area. And then so
For how long?
this however long it lasted, immediately and weeks, maybe months, and maybe we're responsible for replacement, resettling of families, and a lot of those families were in Osage County, resettled. Different towns: Fairfax, Hominy, Pawhuska, Ponca City, Bartlesville,
So they fed. So our Tinker cousins fed them with their cattle.
for emergency use. That was my understanding. Chopped up the beef and got it on the grill so people could eat for a week.
3,000 people. Wow. Now, why were there? But it was a real wealthy time in Tulsa with the blacks. Were they called those
Wall Street,
Wall Street? The Black Wall Street or something like
the
that?
Midwest.
Of the Midwest. So they would have been wealthy people too, or
The Tinker family would have?
No, the blacks that were run out of
Some.
Tulsa.
It would have been all a mixture of people just like anybody in a neighborhood or neighborhoods. Yeah.
And isn't the KKK a real? This is central hierarchy of KKK is in
At one
Skytook.
time, probably, I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
So that could
Tulsa for sure. The Skytook portion was the safe side. Everything south of Skytook was Tulsa, Sperry, Turley.
Because when I moved,
And they wouldn't have been able to go south because the majority of the white population in Tulsa at that time would have had the south areas blocked off, so all migration would have went north. Anyway, but I do know that the Tinker family played a big role in helping and recovering and stopping. They actually at gunpoint on the creek banks and the railroad tracks with their guns, and the Trumbull and different families, Tinkers would let the people know they're not getting to come up further past this area. And they have to go, this is where the riot stops, this is where you have to go back, because this is what we have up here.
So they were protecting the blacks that were taking refuge
That's
there?
correct.
feeding them.
Right.
3,000.
But protecting them was the main, probably objective in the first
Wow.
48 hours.
Do you
So,
know if
yeah.
there's anything written or published on that? On
No,
that
probably
history?
not. That's just oral history I have through my family, our family here.
There is history of the riots.
Uh-huh.
But not
the role of
personal
the
family
Not
Tinker,
history.
personal family
the role of the
stuff, no.
Tinker family is very significant.
So I'm glad you guys got this on tape. And
Yeah.
I'm glad to get this to future generations.